So we're going to talk about how to fine tune these platters and get a foot ring on. So this one, I did a whole bunch of working with the metal rib just to scrape and to fine tune. I fine tuned the edge with the Surform, came back with the rib. I used my little sponge quite a bit. Alex put these foot rings into this mold when she dropped her slab down on the plaster mold. These need to stay in for about 15 minutes. Any longer, they shrink too much and you can't get them out. So this one is totally fine tuned and it's ready for a foot ring. I'm gonna wrap it back up just for a minute so I can fine tune this one and show you how to do that. And then we'll probably make that a second video. So that one's just gonna be wrapped up. So I have this one. It's a nice it's a nice leather hard. I want to make sure that when you guys put your slab, when you flip it off and you put it into the slanted disc, you want to make sure that this portion stays as flat as possible. So you don't want it to curve up because then it becomes really problematic with the feet. So I've got the rim's a little bit funky. I need to kind of do a little more fine tuning on the outside. So what I start with is the Surform, and I'm just coming and articulating the line of the external shape. Then I can round off these edges. So anywhere there might be a little bit more clay, I'll take a little bit more off. And I'm just trying to resolve the shape so it's nice and uniform. Okay, so now I have a nice exterior shape. And then I can kind of flip this over and I can do a little bit of fine tuning. Sometimes there's like a little bit of extra clay on the outside and we want to try and have this as sort of as smooth of a shape as possible. So I'm just going to knock off that little edge. And my hand on the inside is spread really wide so that I'm trying to not put too much pressure in one spot over another so that it doesn't crack or bend. Okay, so now I've got this sort of all taken care of. Now I can come back in and I can, and I like working on this foam because it gives me a space that it's not going to kind of shift into. I've got some more foam upstairs that I can bring down for you all. Then I'm just going to take my metal rib and I'm going to curve the rib and just drag it across. And what that's doing is it's getting rid of those little Surform lines and it's compressing everything. So I'm going to do this across, certainly across the rim here on the back side, but I'm also going to do this on the bottom. And sometimes you'll lose, you'll take a little clay off when you do this, and that's all right. So we're really working to compress the rim as well as the back side to limit cracking as this dries. And I'm not going to worry, there's a little bit of pulling happening with the rib. I'm not going to worry too much about that because I'm going to come back with a damp sponge and clean that up. So this cleanup takes some time. And I can come across it a little bit broader with my rib in a couple different directions for this bottom portion. And we want to clean this up and fine tune this before we put the rim on, like the foot ring, because there's nothing worse than trying to, you know, put that on and then coming in and you're not going to be able to get all of the areas in a way that you can here. Okay, I have a sponge, bless you, that I'm squeezing out all the water of. So I'm not introducing a ton of moisture into this. This allows me now to get in this area here, but again, I don't want to push down too much because it can crack, right? So I'm really just kind of using this to further compress and clean up those areas where the clay might have pulled a little bit. I was just tidying up that surface. So I've got the back side fairly well cleaned up. Knock off any of my little pieces. I flip it over. Now I can address the inside and the rest of this rim. So same thing with the rim here. I want this to be nice and round, right? We don't want it to come to a sharp edge so that it won't knock and chip as easily if it has that nice round edge. So again, I'm just rounding the rib and I'm just taking that shape. We're kind of trimming it this way, right? And it's much easier if you do broad strokes as opposed to trying to just work in little areas, because then it becomes more consistent and even. I'm just trying to round that edge over. So that looks pretty good to me. So now I can come in with, again, that dry damp sponge and just smooth this thing out, right? And now we have this nice soft edge all the way around.
Do we know how we're gonna glaze these?
I could talk to Tim and Wayne about that. Some of the glazes that they picked out are, Wayne really wants like warm browns and reds. Yellows and reds and maybe even black. Remember the bowl that's gonna fit here is gonna be flameware. So we've got to think about what the contrast for this is. So I'm not entirely sure how we're gonna glaze this one, but it will be a single solid glaze. Bless you. So I also want to come and do a little bit more compressing on the inside. And sometimes when you're taking off that mold, you might have squished it a little bit, or, you know, so you can take the metal rib and just like to come along sort of the rim and make sure that that's nice and straight and smooth. And then again, I'll spend a little time compressing the center of this. And again, keep in mind I'm going faster than I normally would, right? I spent a lot of time on these, compressing them over the weekend and just really fine tuning them.
How much time do you think we should put on each one? Like 2 hours?
Yeah, probably. I mean, plan for an hour to 2 hours in terms of, you know, start to finish. I mean, you're not gonna be able to do that all at once. You're gonna need it to set up, right?
How long did you have that sit before you started compressing?
So I made this one on Monday. I did it on Monday, and I think it came off of the mold and then sat in open air, I don't know, for about 40 minutes before I wrapped it up. And then I took it out, today. It was pretty moist inside, so I let it sit a little bit more. It was really quite kind of tearing when I was using the rib, so I wanted to let it sit a little bit more. And then it's probably spending at least 30 minutes on this side and 30 minutes on the other side just to prep it, right? And then of course coming back with your sponge. And fine tuning again. Always support it whenever you're working on it, so that you're not going to push more in one area. I mean, when it's doing this, it shouldn't be wiggly, right? It should be a pretty stiff leather hard. Okay, so now, again, in real life, I'd spend a little more time on the surface, but this is pretty ready to go. So I am going to put this one away because I am going to spend more time on this, and I'm going to pull out the other one.